Carlton Collins. I grew up on St. Simon's Island. I'm honoring today my dad, Lynwood Gray Collins Jr. My dad was in the Navy, and I was honored to buy a brick for him. He didn't spend much time in the Navy. I know that a lot of the bricks, the people represented by those bricks, spent a great deal of time in the services and did a lot of things, distinguished and accomplished, but my dad really didn't. He volunteered to go into the Navy. He went to Pensacola, Florida for training. 3 months later, they surrendered, and my dad came home. So he never saw service. He never left the States. It sounds unremarkable, but the thing that took me a long time to realize is he didn't know that the war was going to be over. He didn't realize he wasn't going to see action. He was ready to put his life on the line when he volunteered, and he was proud to do it. He really didn't talk about his life in the Navy much. There were a couple of stories that he did recount. He liked to talk about the P-boats that he worked on, the big engines in those boats and being out in Pensacola Bay. And one time an aircraft went down in Pensacola Bay, and the pilots had to be recovered. My dad was one of the people that went out to recover them, and it was a gruesome task, and he talked about that story and retold that a few times. But for the most part, he enlisted, and he liked to say till the end, he goes, the enemy heard that he had enlisted and they surrendered. So that was his sense of humor. So, we grew up on St. Simon's Island. I was 2 years old when we moved there, and my dad eventually opened up a barbecue restaurant there at the village and had it for 15 years or so. And he was the local gossip guy that when you could come in and get a barbecue sandwich and Brunswick stew that was really out of this world good. And he would just talk to all the locals, and he would share, and he had all these stories about people and life there. St. Simon's a pretty small island, so he knew all the little things that people would say, and he collected those stories over the years. To his dying day, he had their sign from his restaurant hanging over his bed. I have that sign now. So that'd probably be one of the things that he would talk about. When I was a small child, he took my brother and I out in the woods, and he chopped down bamboo on St. Simon's in the Sea Island woods, and he chopped down palmetto leaves, and he erected this 2-story hut in the back. It looked like Gilligan's Island hut, even better. And for years and years, that was the central location all the kids in the neighborhood would play. We would spend the night there, have campouts, and my dad put the lawnmower and tools underneath, and up above all the kids would play. And when the thing got kind of ratty, he'd go out in the woods with his Volvo, and he'd open up and he'd chop down some more palmetto leaves and collect those, and he would thread those through the bamboo slats, and he would rebuild that. And so he was a builder, and he really enjoyed that type of stuff, and it was crazy, but that's a big fond memory. About 15 years ago, about the year 2000 or so, I took my dad to Hawaii with me. Just he and I went on a week-long trip. We went to the Pearl Harbor Memorial. That was very touching to him. He stood atop the USS Arizona, and it was very moving. You could see how he thought about the war and talked about it. He just wanted to stay there with those memories. He spent a long time looking at all the pictures and just soaking it all in, and you could tell he wasn't talking, he was just kind of bringing back memories for himself. But it was a great thing for us to do. We went over to Maui after that, and we rented motorcycles, got Harleys, and we went up to top of Haleakala and watched sunrise one morning, and it was just the two of us. It was he says it was the greatest thing he ever did in his life, spending that little bit of time with me. And if you haven't done that with your dad or your mom, I would highly recommend you figure out some kind of trip and just the two of you take off and have a good time together.